with that, I am going to move to the next slide and reintroduce to you Michelle Cummings. Michelle was with us this morning, did a fantastic job getting our day kicked off well. She's going to do an even better job, I know now, to get us all wrapped up for the day and get us excited as we go off and do some amazing things. If you weren't with us this morning, Michelle is a professional trainer and team building expert. She lives in Colorado. And I think I know, Michelle, that you have been in Florida this week, probably in person. And I think last night you were doing a virtual presentation to Asia. That's like the continent, not way far away.
China and Taiwan specifically, but yes.
And there you go. And she was with us today. So we really appreciate you being with us, Michelle. Hopefully after you're done with us, you can get a little nap in there somewhere. But thank you so much. I'll turn it back over to you. And thank you again for being with us today, Michelle.
All right. Thank you, guys. I am excited to be back. I've actually been listening in the background for the entire morning. So I have been with you all day as well. I had a little bit of work to catch up on, so I've just been listening, and I have been learning a little bit today as well. So I'm excited to play with you again this afternoon. Now, I know that each one of the host sites were sent a little gift package or a gift care package or fun box full of stuff as well. And so I'm going to go over some of the activities that we did, that are training wheels based activities in that as well. And this is going to be a very interactive session. So I would encourage you. I see that we have about 60 people still with us right now. And I see that a lot of us do not have our cameras on. We are going to be playing some activities that it is going to be important that you have your cameras on. So if it's appropriate and if it's possible, if you could re-engage with us, rejoin. I know it's been a long day sitting in chairs and a long day on Zoom already. Might be a record for the longest Zoom meeting that I've been a part of in one fall swoop, right? In one time sitting. But we're going to get up and we're going to be active and engaged in our learning again. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. And so I'm going to pop in here. I have a lot to share and show and play to do with you this afternoon. So, so the learning outcomes this afternoon, I'm going to introduce you to some simple icebreakers you can utilize tomorrow in the virtual space that really focus on this connection before content piece. So as I've been listening for the last several hours, people are feeling disconnected and we have anxiety and we have all of these different things that are starting to pop up that so this message here of making sure that we are having people connect with one another before we're diving into our content can be really important. And also to share with you some creative ways in the virtual space to do some good reflection. So some different tools as well as some techniques to do that. So this is my favorite quote on connection before content. And it's by a guy by the name of Peter Block, who's a New York Times bestselling author. And he has this quote here: "We must establish a personal connection with each other. Connection before content. Without relatedness, no work can occur." So if you think about it, if we don't feel connected to a group, if we can't relate to what people are saying and doing and things like that, no work can get done. And that doesn't mean whether you're a kid or whether you're an adult. We've got to connect with one another. And in the virtual space, we have to work a little extra in order to make that happen. So remember earlier when we talked about the 4-H pledge and using it as a debrief for the morning keynote? What about using it as an icebreaker activity as well? Because I know you're going to say it at the beginning of every single meeting, because I used to say it at the beginning of every single meeting as well. So let's dissect that just a little bit. And now let's start to look at that as an icebreaker activity. So if you think about it with your head, in any meeting, do you use your head do you make decisions? Do you plan? Do you organize? Do you problem solve? Do you do all those things in your club meetings? I bet you do. So let's use that metaphor as an icebreaker. How can we use our head today in our meeting? Our heart, that stands for strong personal values, positive self-concept, concern for others, cooperation, communication. How do we lead with intent? All of those good things. So how are we going to use our heart in our club meeting today? Our hands, this is the one where we think about others, right? Community service, volunteering. I listened to that crazy 500-ish number names of volunteers. You have amazing, great, caring adults as volunteers in the state of Indiana. And that is fantastic. But you, as a kid, how do you use your hands to give back, to others. Maybe it's to your other peers, other kids in your club, back to your community, all those things. And so use that question. How do we use our hands in our meeting today in order to really be others minded? And then health, use our feet there to stands for healthy lifestyles, character, stress management, disease prevention. You guys talked about a lot of those things in your previous session earlier today. And then the 4-H motto with the four-leaf clover there, to make the best better. How do we use those things to stretch our abilities and our capabilities to reach our full potential? And then, of course, how do we use how do we use the world? How do we impact if we're using our head, heart, hands, and health? How do we impact our club, our community, our country, and our world? So starting to take the things that are so familiar that maybe you've said 5,421 times, as Steve put in the chat box earlier, instead of just saying it, how do we live it? How do we live it in our clubs and things like that? So I'm going to put a couple links in the chat box while we are playing together today, to some different resources that I have provided for you. So this little 4-H pledge icebreaker, I'm going to put a link in the chat box right now that just takes you to that particular graphic that you just saw on that slide. Go download that. If you're using these slides in your icebreaker presentation, then throw that. Just go and copy and paste that JPEG there into your own presentation. Also, I heard a lot of you say you're going into hybrid mode where you've got some people in person, some people that are going to be in the virtual space for maybe quite a while. I have led lots and lots of free webinars and created several free handouts on how to on different handouts on how to do this well. So I just put a link in the chat box to this page on my website right here that is free resources and handouts. So please go. Here's one: team building from 6 feet apart. So here's some ideas on how you can do team building with your in-person club meetings that still keep people 6 feet apart from one another. And then down below, there's like over 50 different team building activities and games with full write-ups, handouts, links to free stuff down here as well. Just put your name and email address in any of those. There's also some tips for successful virtual facilitation. I heard many great tips earlier and a little bit ago where whoever the speaker right before me was saying, make sure you're wearing appropriate backgrounds, like all those things. All those are great. I've got some additional ones in there as well. So today, to round out and talk about the last, the home stretch of our time together. I know it's been a long day, but there are some great things that we can do together as a group. So I know we've been sitting for a long time, so I thought the first activity that I would start out with would have a little bit of movement to it, okay? And so I know that actually, before I move into that activity, I wanted to also, now I need to share my screen one more time and share with you that in your little kits that you guys got, I actually included a little keychain for each and every one of you. So that we just did this slide. This keychain here is the exact thing we just talked about, the body part charms, right? So there's one of these little packets here for every you. It's got a head, it's got a heart, it's got hands, it's got feet and lungs for help. It also has a little four-leaf clover so that you can talk about all those things. And so if you are virtual at home and you didn't make it into one of the 25 sites, then they have one of these for you. And if by chance one of those 25 sites you ended up with more kids, I sent 375 of them, I think, to the main central office there. So everybody that is watching today should have access to one, and you should have some extras for your clubs as well. So utilize those little tangible in-person things to where, or hold them up to your camera view if you're virtual, to where you could talk about how are we going to use our head, how are we going to use our heart, all of these things, and make it just a little bit more interactive like that. Now I'm going to share with you, you also get in there this little splitter ring with 3 little pony beads on it. Now I use this one to talk about, it's such a great stoplight metaphor. In every club, in every group you're ever going to be a part of, in any time of your life, there are always things that we can identify that what is not working in our club right now. What are things we need to stop doing? With the yellow, what are things we need to be careful of? And with green, what are things that we're doing really well that we need to continue doing? So these little tiny anchor tools is what I call them. They anchor you back to some sort of metaphor that really do help reinforce the learning. So, so yours in your little kit looks like this. It's got a little splitter ring. You just put those 3 pony beads on there, and then honestly throw it on a carabiner on a little keychain clip, and then you're going to be able to carry them around with you. Throw them on your water bottle, throw them on your keychain, different things like that. But then you're walking around all the time with that 4-H pledge right there at your fingertips as such a great reminder of this. You remember that little metaphor we talked about earlier today, that people will follow what you do rather than what you say, right? Well, so that mirror neuron activity, we talked about that a little bit this morning. I want to reinforce that this afternoon with an activity that I call Simon Says. Now, how many of you have played the game of Simon Says at some point in time in your life? Raise your hand. I want to see them. Yep. All right. Okay, put your hands down. Now, I'm curious, how many of you totally hate the game of Simon Says? I'm curious, is there anybody that hates that game? Okay, I see a couple of you like, yeah. Okay, I hated that game as a kid growing up. Why did I hate that game? If you make a mistake in the old version of Simon Says, I have changed the rules to Simon Says. If you made a mistake in the old version of Simon Says, what happened? You were out, right? You totally got out. And so then the walk of shame started, right? And then you had to leave the game. Now, me, I've been a kid that has always loved to play games. And I was always the first kid out. And it just used to make me so angry and frustrated because I'm such a visual learner. And now that I'm a grown up and I know more about mirror neurons, I now know why I was the first kid out all the time is because my brain is wired to follow the behaviors that I see Simon do rather than totally listening for what Simon says all the time, right? And in the old version, as soon as you make a mistake, you're just out. It doesn't give you the opportunity to learn from your mistake and try not to make it again, right? Is that what we try to teach people in life? If you make a mistake, because we all are going to make a mistake. I make mistakes daily, but it's important that we learn from those mistakes and then try not to make them again. So we're going to play the little game of Simon Says, but I have changed the rules to Simon Says. Okay, so in a minute, I'm going to ask you to stand up and play this game with me, okay? And I'm going to encourage you to step away from your camera or roll back away from your camera, just so that we're not getting belly button view of everybody, because sometimes not the most attractive view or the best view that we want everyone to see, right? Okay, so in a minute, I'm going to roll away and I'm going to play this game with you. So now some of the rules of Simon Says are still the same. Okay, so I'm going to be Simon. I'm going to give you some commands, but you don't start and you don't do any of those commands unless I start the commands with the words Simon Says. So if I said both hands up, you wouldn't do that. You'd wait until you heard me say Simon Says both hands up, and then you would raise your hands. Okay, so that rule is still the same. However, if you make a mistake in this version, and I guarantee you everybody will, okay? So if you make a mistake, nobody gets out. Instead, what I want you to do is I want for every mistake you make, just give yourself a point. Okay, so you're going to keep track of your own points in your own mind. Nobody really cares how many points you get. Okay, but ideally you try to have as few points possible because that meant that you made the fewest amount of mistakes, right? But if you make a mistake, try to learn from it. Try not to make that mistake again. Okay, so just give yourself a point. Nobody gets out. So you get that chance to learn from that mistake. Now, flinching totally counts as a point. Okay, so if I said right hand up and you went, flinching totally counts as a point. Okay, so again, the points don't really matter. So just give yourself a point. Now, so that's the first new rule. The second new rule is this. In a minute, I'm going to start the game. And I'm going to say, the game of Simon Says has officially begun. The game will continue until you hear me say, the game of Simon Says is officially over. It is very important. The game will play the entire time in between those two statements. And that is a very, very important rule to remember. Okay? All right, so this is what I'm going to ask you to do in the game. Okay? So I'm going to stand up here. Roll my chair back here. All right, so I'm going to stand up and it's going to look like this. It'll be, I'm going to change my camera just a hair up so I can actually stand up without leaning down. Okay, here we go. So here's what the commands will look like. Okay, it'll be both hands up, both hands down, right hand up, right hand down, left hand up, left hand down. Okay, so nothing too terribly difficult. Now, the one thing I'm going to ask you to do that you probably haven't seen before is clapping position. Okay, so and if you hear me say Simon Says clapping position, it looks like this. Okay, I want you to put your hands out as if you were about to clap vigorously. Okay, and then I'm going to say clap once, clap twice, but don't do it unless Simon says. Okay, now also, because there's a little bit of sound and audio feedback, go ahead and unmute yourself unless you have a really noisy background, or if you're going to get feedback really badly from being on Zoom and it's like broadcasting several places. Go ahead and unmute yourself if you don't have a super noisy background. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So I like to practice clapping position real quick, just to make sure everyone has that one down. Okay. So let's practice that one. Simon says clapping position. Okay. See, it's cool, isn't it, when everybody does that together, right? And then Simon says clap once. Excellent. Okay. So you got it. Okay. Cool. All right. So those are the rules. Nobody gets out. Give yourself a point. A game starts when I say the game Simon says is officially begun. Game will end when I say the game Simon says is officially over. Okay. Flinching counts as a point. Those are all the new rules. Are there any questions before we begin? Any questions? Okay, no questions? All right, then go ahead and everyone stand up. Everyone join me. You can actually do Simon Says sitting down. That's really fun too, but it's way more fun. Again, incorporating some movement into your virtual programming is so important for brain engagement as well. All right, then the game of Simon Says has officially begun. All right, here we go. Both hands up. Oh, no, that's all right. Not a big deal. Just point. Not yet. Not yet. Let's try that again. Both hands up. See, that's called learning. Nicely done. Nicely done. Simon says both hands up. Both hands down. Oh, not yet. That's all right. Just a point. Not a big deal. Try to learn from that. Simon says both hands down. Right hand up. Oh, not yet. That's all right. It's all right, Thomas. Not a big deal. It's just a point. Simon says right hand up. Right hand down. Oh, not yet. That's all right. Simon says right hand down. Isn't it hard? It's crazy how hard it is. Left hand up. Simon says left hand up. Left hand down. Good job. Simon says left hand down. Both hands up. Simon says both hands up. Nicely done. Both hands down. Oh, not yet. Simon says both hands down. All right, good job. Now that's the end of phase one. Now my version of Simon Says actually has 3 phases to it. Okay, so the first phase I call the skill building phase. That's where you're getting used to the actions and the motions, and my pace is a little slower. We're about to go into phase 2, and phase 2 is hard. I'm going to throw some tricks at you in phase 2, so you have to be a really good listener. Okay, and then there's a phase 3. Phase 3 is just fun. We'll get to that in a little bit. But before I go into phase 2, I always like to do kind of a quick check-in just to kind of see how everybody's doing. So raise your hand if you still have 0 points. Anybody? Anybody out there? Not anymore! Remember how I said I just was going to throw some tricks? That was my first one. So remember how I said phase 2 was really hard? Oh my gosh, it's so hard. You got to be a really good listener, okay? So let's see if anybody caught that. Simon says raise your hand if you still have 0 points. Anybody? Oh, good. Good job. Nicely done. Go ahead and put your hands down. Simon says go ahead and put your hands down. Oh, I see lots of that in my gallery view. So like I said, Simon can be a little tricky in phase 2. So you have to be a really good listener. That just levels the playing field a little bit too. All right. So like I said, phase 1 was skill building. Phase 2 is going to be hard. So be a really good listener, okay? All right, here we go. Simon says take a big deep breath in and out. I like to center people before we go in. All right, here we go. Both hands up. Oh, not yet. Simon says both hands up. Both hands down. Simon says both hands down. Good job. Right hand up. Simon says right hand up. Right hand down. Simon says right hand up. Did you catch that? Your brain just went, what? Simon says right hand down. Left hand up. Simon says left hand down. Oh, it's so hard. Simon says left hand up. Left hand down. Simon says left hand up. Simon says left hand down. so hard. I'm saying one thing and doing the exact opposite, right? Both hands up. Simon says both hands down. Oh, Simon says both hands up.
Hands up.
Both hands down. Simon says both hands up. Simon says both hands down. All right, I'll quit torturing. Go ahead and shake it out. Woo! Just kidding. Simon says go ahead and shake that out. All right, so here's my teachable moment nugget. It's really hard to follow a leader whose actions don't match their words. Mic drop on that one, right? All right, so like I said, phase 1 was skill building. Phase 2 was hard. Now we're going to move into phase 3. Phase 3 is just fun. I'm going to throw in some clapping position, and then I'm going to end the game. All right, here we go. Simon says take a big deep breath in and out. All right, here we go. Both hands up. Good job. I'm not going to get anybody on that one anywhere. Simon says both hands up. Both hands down. Simon says both hands down. Simon says clapping position. Clap once. Simon says clap once. Clap twice. Simon says clap twice. Clap once. Simon says clap once. Clap twice. Simon says clap twice. So hard, right? Go ahead and put your hands down. Simon says go ahead and put your hands down. Right hand up. Simon says right hand up. Right hand down. Simon says right hand down. Simon says clapping position. Clap once. Simon says clap once. Clap twice. Simon says clap twice. All right, Simon says clap continuously. Good job. Good job. All right, go ahead and stop. Go ahead, stop. Oh, you guys, stop it. Oh, stop. Simon says stop. That's just fun for Simon. Simon says clap once. Clap twice. Simon says clap twice. Clap once. All right, go ahead and put your hands down. Simon says go ahead and put your hands down. Simon says raise your right hand. Simon says take your right hand and pat yourself on the back for a job well done. The game of Simon Says is officially over. Nicely done. Go ahead and find your way back to your seats if you would, please. All right, I'm curious. Oh, I gotta change my camera. Here we go, back down here. Okay, I am curious. Let's open up that chat box and let's debrief the game of Simon Says. What did you like about this version of Simon Says compared to the old version? Start typing in some answers into the chat box there. What were some things, some elements of that game that you really liked about that particular version? It was more fun. It was more fun to have to listen. Everyone kept playing, so much less shame, right? I mean, if you made a mistake, how many of you totally laughed at yourself when you made a mistake? Right? I totally do. Anytime I get to be a participant in that. Now, in the old version, if you made a mistake, did you laugh at yourself when you made that mistake? Probably not. You felt like others were laughing at you rather than with you, right? I like that you could make a mistake and not get embarrassed. You didn't get out of the game. You keep everyone involved. Absolutely, because in any type of inclusion, I know that inclusion, diversity, equity, all of those things are such good keywords and big concepts that are so important in 4-H, that as soon as we have something that eliminates people from the game, by the end of the game, you've got 3 really invested people and 27 behavior problems off to the side, right? Because once you get eliminated from something, you are no longer invested in what is going on, right? So finding those ways to keep people motivated. Okay. Here's another question that I want you to answer, populate in the chat box with, is let's talk about phase 2. What was it about phase 2 that made it so hard to follow me? And did you, so that's one question, you can start populating there. And did you change the way that you followed me in phase 2? I'm curious, what were some strategies you started to come up with for yourself in phase 2? Let's see here. When I pulled the tricks, tried not to look at the screen. Okay, so think about that. How many of you, maybe even, yeah, stop looking at the video. I was saying the exact opposite thing of what I was doing, right? Stopped, watching the screen. You stopped looking to me for leadership because you could no longer trust me, right? Because I was saying one thing and doing the exact opposite. So think about that this morning, even with this message. I said one thing, but I did the exact opposite. And so, or you did the opposite of what I said, paused and listened before acting. How many of you then started listening to every single word I said before you made a move? Now think about that in relation back to the real world. How much extra effort and energy did it take you to follow me when I was saying one thing and doing the exact opposite? Probably a lot, right? So translate that back to the real world. If I'm a leader that is saying one thing and doing the exact opposite, it takes my club members, the people that are following me, it's so much harder for them to really know what is right. And it takes so much extra effort and energy to follow me if I'm being an example of poor leadership, right? So, so what I love about this version of Simon Says, there's so many great metaphors that we could pull out of this. How many of you found yourself on the mistake roller coaster? You're like, oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. And all of a sudden you're like, oh no, oh no, oh no, right? And you maybe made like 2 or 3 mistakes right in a row. You're like, oh my gosh, focus. It's just the game of Simon Says. Come on, right? And I think that we, kids, adults, all of us do that in our real lives as well, right? Like we're totally going along, life's going good, and all of a sudden like COVID hits, you're like, oh no, oh no, oh no, what are we gonna do? Intervention. And then we got to get back on track, right? Or we make one mistake which snowballs into 2 and 3 and 4 mistakes before all of a sudden, or maybe it's you, maybe you're that kid that has been that A student, and now all of a sudden we're in this hybrid model where some of us are in person, some of us are online, and the online learning is hard for you. I have one of those kids, right? He was an AB student. He's not an AB student right now because the virtual learning is so hard. And so he was at his peak. And now all of a sudden he's like, oh no, oh no, oh no. And we're in this place of intervention. We have got to figure out how to make this work to get back on track. So there's so many great metaphors that you can pull out of this little version of Simon Says, and those are just a couple of them, right? So this mirror neuron activity, or Simon Says, mirror neurons are these things that live in our brains that literally we are wired to follow the actions that we see other people do. We talked about that, and I didn't just make this stuff up. There is some great research out of major university all over the world, in particular the University of Parma in Italy. What they did was they did some studies with on monkeys first and then on humans. And so they connected electrodes to the external part of monkeys' brains. And they gave one monkey a banana and had him peel and eat a banana in front of a bunch of observer monkeys. And what they found were the exact same neurons were firing in the brains of the observer monkeys as the monkey that was eating the banana. And so then they did other things too, gave the one monkey a ball, had him play with a ball and 2 other things. And the exact same neurons were firing in the brains of the observers. It was fascinating. So then with humans, they did the exact same thing. They connected electrodes to the external part, had one human drink some water, shuffle a deck of playing cards, different things like that. The exact same neurons were firing in the observers. That is the person doing the task. But with humans, they could actually then interview them later. And so a couple weeks went by, and then they interviewed all the observers. And they're like, now, when you were there, did you actually shuffle the deck of cards, or did you just observe somebody shuffling the deck of cards? Several people totally reported that they had shuffled a deck of cards when they in fact hadn't. So that's the power of mirror neurons. And so if you think about that as a leader in your club, as someone leading virtual meetings, as an adult volunteer watching this today, what does this mean for leadership and role modeling? So I would like you to discuss this, and I'm going to send you into breakout rooms for just a few moments. If you're at a physical site, then you guys can just pause and whatnot. But I want you to answer these 3 questions. One, what behaviors do you have that you want people mirroring back? Because we all have those. I'm like, oh, I do this really well. I kind of hope that other people will do the same thing because it works really well. However, we also have these other behaviors. All of us have them, myself included, that we do not want people mirroring back. Okay. So one of mine, I'm a total procrastinator. I hate that I am one, but it's one of those things. And I can take steps to change that behavior. But my true nature, I will procrastinate, and I still get things done, but I'm a procrastinator. I hate it. But I lead a team of people. I have people that work for me. I don't want them to procrastinate. right? I don't want them to wait till the last 10 minutes before something is due before they start doing it, right? Because all of a sudden, what if something goes wrong and we don't have what we need or technology fails? What if we don't have backups? Like, I don't want necessarily the people that I lead. However, I can't get upset with my staff if they have procrastinated a project because their leader is a self-proclaimed procrastinator. So I have to keep that in mind as well. And then any additional insights that you will take away from the Simon Says activity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up breakout rooms here for just a moment. I am going to, that same slide that I just had up on the screen, I'm going to cut and paste a link to that image in the chat box. So that way you have all of the questions right there. And I'm going to open, actually, I don't have the breakout room buttons. So Steve, if you have it, that'd be great. But what I'd love is of the 59 people that are still here, I'd love to just open up chat rooms and send you in there for just 4 or 5 minutes, not terribly long, because I don't want to eat up our too much time talking. But at the same time, I really want you to really feel this in your bones. You just experienced this awesome Simon Says game. And now I want you to really reflect on this, because that's where, when you reflect on something where it actually can become, you can apply this learning back to the real world. Okay, so Steve, if you don't mind opening up breakout rooms for just 5 minutes, that would be awesome. And everyone just hit that join button or click on the little breakout room button in your Zoom navigation bar, and we'll see you back here in 5 minutes, okay? And those of you that are at the host sites, if you want to click on that link in the chat box, you can just put that up on your screen. I've seen several of you have screen, like you've been having the big screen up. You can just throw it up there and you guys can just have that conversation right there in your in person as well. All right, we're gonna go ahead and bring everybody back. Looks like a lot of groups are coming back. This is where I feel like it's Harry Potter. And you know how they can just automatically just totally just show back up in your room. This is the only time I ever feel like I'm actually participating in something that is Harry Potter like, where you all of a sudden just like, what did that little green, whatever the green thing is, and said whatever it was, and like all of a sudden here we are, we're all back. Okay, cool. I see how many seconds we got there, Steve. Probably 10 seconds left before we get on back. 3, 2, 1, and welcome back. All right, cool. Thank you for having that conversation. I'm curious, populate the chat box with maybe what are some other insights that you might take away from that, from the Simon Says activity, or any really good discussions that you guys had in your breakout rooms. Go ahead and populate that into the chat box. Hi, buddy. Okay, cool. Here we go. All right, let's see what you got. What were some other things that you guys liked, or insights you're going to take away from Simon Says? I'm curious. You would want people motioning back, being nice. Absolutely. Being nice to other people, critical thinking. That's a great one. I like that, Chris. That's awesome. So when they see you being a good critical thinker, then that's what they want. You want that other people to mirror that. Yeah. So creativity, being creative in the moment, or just your planning. That presentation that I saw earlier today by, who was it? It was Anna, Danielle, and Courtney. That was amazing. I learned I learned a lot from you guys too, right? So even when you see really great presentations by some of the other kids in your club, what are you role modeling in that moment that other kids are learning from you? Maybe it was the way you presented, maybe it was, all those different things. You're being a leader in that moment, and now people are like, "Oh, I want to do something like that. I really like the way they did this." We wouldn't want people to mirror back, not listening. Absolutely. How many of you have ever been in a conversation with someone and it's looked something like this? Uh-huh. Oh, okay. Okay, right. Yeah. Like these totally get in the way sometimes of us having effective connection with people, right? And I know you've been on this. I know you've been on the Zoom call a long day today. Maybe your phone has been in your pocket a lot, but how many of you get a buzz in your pocket every time you get a Snapchat notification, right? Bzz, bzz, bzz. Every time that happens, it totally takes your attention away from what we're doing right here, and I've got to be more interesting than what's happening in that buzz in your pocket, right? So what do I do as a leader to remove the distractions? How can I model that for other kids in my club? And then also as a leader, when I'm up in front, how can I make sure that I am not getting this thing out and doing things when I need to be focused and things like that? So from St. Joseph County, you want to mirror reliable, organized, decluttered, positivity, good attitude, honest, easygoing, respect, timely. That sounds like that was a pretty awesome conversation. So, and you would not want, no phone with you today. That's awesome. Good job, Liz. So yeah, so again, I think it's just great to have these conversations, right? So that way, you had the experience, but now we reflected on it. You're going to remember that Simon Says game and be able to apply what you learned a little bit differently because we chose to take the time to reflect, right? And so, so I have a couple of reflection activities that I'm going to share with you as well. But I also want to show you, here are some other ways. I saw some great ideas already mentioned throughout the day today on ways to make your virtual meetings really interactive. I have a lot more. In fact, because I stayed engaged and listened, I actually took out some that were already mentioned and put in some other ones as well. So, so we're going to now focus and move into a little bit, more of the me sharing lots of some additional new ideas that maybe are going to be helpful for you in your virtual presentations or your hybrid presentations as well. All right, so let's see. I need my chat box to come back up. Where did it go? Come on, chat box. Because I'm going to be putting links in the chat box. I don't know why this happens sometimes, but when I'm sharing my screen, sometimes the chat box goes away. I don't know why. All right, so I'm going to put a link in the chat box right now. And this is a link that will totally help me here in just a moment on the slide that I'm on right now. Okay, so if you just create slides in your PowerPoint and Google Slides, whatever you use, that have different icebreaker prompts. So like this image here, all about me. I was born in my favorite sweet treat is, my favorite vacation spot is. All you have to do is just throw this into a slide deck, and then you can either A, send people into breakout rooms to where they can answer these questions, or if you've got a small group meeting, just have everyone unmute themselves, pick one of those questions, and take turns answering those questions. So so we have tons of free images like this on our Pinterest page. So just click on that link to the Training Wheels Pinterest page, go and download all that you want. I intentionally did not brand them with my logo so that you could use them and go and put them right into your own slide decks. So here's another great idea you can do is what I call playing card connections. I tried to think of what are resources that people might have readily available to them in their homes if we're going to be back in this stay-at-home orders, whatnot. So playing cards is one of those things that I think a lot of people have some good access to, for the most part. Not everybody, but for the most part they do. So I either so I created some images that have so there's a bunch of those on my Pinterest page as well, but ask people to bring playing cards to the virtual meeting. And then for this particular one, you would ask them to bring ace through six. And then have them shuffle their own little deck, turn over a card, and then they say, all right, I got number 5. My 5 favorite foods are these. And then they would answer that question. You can also show a deck on a separate webcam, or there's also some virtual playing card shufflers that you can find as well. So if you Google playing card shuffler, you're going to find a website that will actually shuffle a deck of playing cards for you, which is kind of cool. But I'm going to show you another trick that I didn't see this morning. So I'm going to show you how to do it now. So you can actually share a second device on Zoom if you're using Zoom as your platform. So what you see here is this giant stand next to me that lives next to my desk. And what it is, it's my iPad stand. I have an iPad Pro, and so it lives right there. And this stand here, it's got a nice big chunky base to it so it doesn't ever tip over. But you can share other devices other than your screen. And so you have to have that device on the same Wi-Fi network that your computer is on. And then what I use is my camera app. And so I then select screen mirroring on my device, which I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. And then it should locate Zoom, and then you select share, and then voila, it's going to work. So let me show you how this works. So what you're going to do is on an iPad. Now, I don't know, I'm not an Android user, so I don't know if this works on Android. So you might have to do a little Googling. But to screen mirror, all you're going to do is you're going to pull down in the upper right-hand corner of your device. Okay, so I'm going to put that in. So when you pull down in the upper left-hand corner or upper right-hand corner of your device, there's going to be a little button there that says screen mirroring. So when you click on screen mirroring, it's now going to start searching for all the different networks that my iPad is connected to. Well, I haven't selected it on Zoom yet. So as soon as I share, instead of sharing screen, I'm going to share my iPhone and my iPad. And as soon as I select iPhone and iPad, it's now going to pop up. So Zoom is now, it's searching. So do you see now? It says Zoom Michelle. So as soon as I click on Zoom Michelle, it's now scrolly wheel is finding, my iPad is now finding Zoom. And as soon as it connects and finds it, sometimes it takes a hot minute, which might be a little bit stressful, but there it is. Now you are viewing my iPad. So what's going to happen next is what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop, sorry, I hope that didn't make you dizzy, but I'm going to pop my iPad into into this iPad stand. So I'm going to select my camera app, and now all of a sudden, this here is now sharing my my desktop here. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is I am going, now that's on my photo. See in the lower right hand corner how it is on my over here. See how it's on photo? If I select video instead, it actually pops it a little bit closer. So there's my calculator, there's all my fun stuff. But now all of a sudden, I have opened up my desktop to some different ways that I can share. Okay, I'm gonna actually move this down just a hair like that. Okay. So what I like about this is now I can totally pop in my playing card connections. And so let's say maybe I had a group of kids that didn't have a deck of cards. I can now shuffle them for them, right? So now I'm like, all right, question number 4, who are 4 important people in your life? Number 5, what are your 5 favorite foods? Ace, what's one new thing you still want to learn? 6 movies you enjoyed. 2 favorite holidays. 3 places you visited. right? But I can just change this now to do whatever I want. So what I could do is, let's say maybe, here's that all about me, one that I shared with you a little bit earlier. So now maybe I could point to one of these or something like that. Or I could do what I call dice breakers. So I could even zoom in here if I wanted to, right? So dice breakers. So instead of icebreakers, we're going to do dice breakers. So what I could do then is I could roll a dice. Now this regular dice, it's pretty loud on my desktop. So I found these really fun 4H green eraser dice. So now all of a sudden I can roll dice. And what I like about this, though, you just have to be careful where your camera is on your device, because if I roll out here, it might be difficult to know whether it is a 1, a 5, or a 6. So if I roll it down kind of where my camera is straight down from my camera, which is right up in here, right? Then now all of a sudden, I've got a different one here. So yeah, so this is my favorite question. If you could be a roadie for any band for 1 month, which band would you choose? I love that question. So, and don't forget that no matter, so let's say maybe I started my meeting with a dice breaker, okay? Let's say that, don't forget that any icebreaker activity that you can do, you can also do as a debrief. So what's one new thing you learned in today's meeting? Acknowledge somebody for a job well done. How will you apply with what you learned today? Describe something that pushed you outside your comfort zone. We talked about comfort zones earlier today. So don't forget, any activity you can think of that you have used as an icebreaker, you can also use as a debriefing activity. So don't forget to debrief. It's so important that we reflect on what we're learning, because if we don't reflect on it, it can sometimes go in one ear and out the other. So and then of course, I also, so let's say maybe you printed off that photo of the 4-H pledge icebreaker there. And then you can also, I have, also, you could, maybe that's where you pull out your little, your body part charms that go with them, right? And so then you can play with these if you want to. I also have really fun large versions. So there's my brain, there's my head. Here is, right. And then here is my head, heart, hands. Here's my hands. Here's my my health, my lungs, or my feet. And then I also have my 4-H, and I have my world. So I could talk about all those exact same things, and this is a way then for me to, to make your virtual meetings, whatever, feel just a little bit more interactive as well. All right, cool. So, so that right there, it's so much different, right? You can also use that same thing to play the games, right? And so like earlier when Steve was showing those Ubuntu cards or those Spotted cards, you could also use your second device to play some board games, different things like that, right there on your desktop. So it just opens up lots of different programming possibilities. Or if you want to do a little presentation, maybe it's your turn to do a presentation for your club that month. Then now all of a sudden it kind of opens up a couple of different programming options. Another thing that you can totally do is that you can share your phone. So instead of choosing share my iPad, I'm going to share, and I'm going to choose my phone. And I'm going to show you a couple of other cool things. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to select screen mirroring on my device. It's looking for it now. As soon as it sees, as soon as it finds Zoom, very quickly it will find Zoom. Come on, iPhone. But what I like about this is that there are several apps that you can use that also are really fun that you can use in the virtual space. So let me make sure that I'm on. Oh yeah, I'm still on Wi-Fi. So if my phone decides to connect, if it doesn't, then I'll just go ahead and it's not going to find it for whatever reason. My phone doesn't want to play today, so that's all right. So, but I have. Let me show you this. I'm going to hold it up in my camera view. There is one app out there called Make Dice, and do you see that? So what it is you can literally put people's faces onto dice. So now that's my friend Kim, and then so I have a regular dice there, and I have a photo of Kim. So now, and all you have to do is shake your phone, And that's my friend Deb, and Deb would then answer question number 2. So if you have, and you could put as many different dice as you want to. Another thing that this one does then is you could, so let's say you have 20 kids on the call that night, then there is a 20-sided dice that you could have rolled, and then it would just be, if everybody had a number, you could even have everyone change their name in Zoom to, like, if I'm Michelle Cummings, but maybe I was person number 4, so it's 4. Michelle Cummings. So then if I'm doing things that I'm person number 4 in that meeting that night, and so then when I pull up my dice and I've got, oh, it's question number whatever, then I know that that's my question that I'm going to do. Where did I get all those squishy props? I actually, I created that activity, and I carry it on the Training Wheels website. So while we're, I can actually go find it, and I can share it with you as well, where I got. So I just became approved through 4-H to start selling that activity. So I'm excited to be able to have that, and I'm donating proceeds from the sales of that activity back to 4-H. So for every group that actually buys it, there's going to be clubs that get free props and free stuff like that. So so there you go. There's the 4-H pledge debrief is what I call it. So the little keychains, we also carry those. So so anyway, so you can just reach out. My email address, if you're curious and want to ask more questions too, my email address is just michelle@training-wheels.com. So feel free to reach out. All right. So that is a little bit about, let's see here. So those are several different tips and tricks on how to share a second device. And I love that because, again, of all the different programming possibilities that it pops up. So I'm going to put a link in the chat box real quick to that All About Me slide to a JPEG, so you can actually go and download that right now. But I'm going to show you a couple other things that you can do. I'm going to share my screen again. Now, for me, if I think about, here's Dice Breakers, here's the Dice Debrief. I had it built out in slides as well, but it's just so much better just to see it through the screen sharing. All right, so this photo here, this was one of my favorite memes that came out after COVID. This is Zoom circa 1969, right? It was the Brady Bunch gallery. So I came up with, I'm like, hey, why not do a Brady Bunch gallery view game? Let's turn it into a game. So I'm going to call out the name of one person in my gallery view. I'm going to call out the name of that person. They're going to unmute themselves, and they're going to pick one of those actual questions from the All About Me, and then they're going to answer the question. But while they're answering, everyone's going to point to wherever that person is in their gallery view. And it's one of those, it totally makes the game just a little bit more interactive and a little bit more fun. So, and again, anytime you can make movement, because the thing about Zoom is that it just randomly selects wherever the person is in your gallery view, right? So I'm going to we're not going to necessarily answer the question, but I'm going to pick one person in my gallery view right now. I want you to unmute yourself and then just talk. And then see how there's a yellow like outline around mine? And they do that for whoever's speaking. So I'm going to pick somebody in my gallery view. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. You just start talking, and then your screen will turn yellow, or your box will turn yellow. And then everybody just point to wherever that person is in their gallery view, okay? All right, so I'm going to call out the name of Sam. I totally see you, everyone. So Sam, go ahead and unmute yourself, and then start talking and just say, hey, it's Sam.
Hello.
There's Sam. Everyone point to where Sam is in their gallery view.
Wow.
Nice. All right, Sam, now you pick the next person, somebody in your gallery view, and you can mute yourself again after you call out the name of somebody else.
Liz.
All right, Liz, unmute yourself.
Hi, here I am.
Where's there she is. Liz is down here.
Yeah, there we go. Good job.
All right,
Everybody's
cool.
getting there.
All right, Liz, who are you going to point to next? Say it again. You cut out right when you said the name.
I think Chris Green.
Chris Green. All right,
Sorry,
Chris.
it's me. Probably. Hi.
All right, there's Chris. Chris gets up to say hi. All right, now when you go back and watch the recording of this, I dare you to find somebody that's not smiling when we do it. Like, everybody is totally smiling because everyone's like, well, this is kind of fun, right? And so So what I like about that is you're infusing fun and learning. Okay, let's give Hamilton County a good shout out because I see y'all, right? So Hamilton County, if you unmute, we're all going to point to where Hamilton County is. And you guys can just scream and say, woohoo! Look at them all right there. Awesome. I love it. All right, cool. Go ahead and mute yourself again. So the Brady Bunch Gallery View game, again, it just adds a little whimsy, a little fun into your games. Also including movement. Remember earlier how we totally did all the virtual high fives? So this is another thing that, again, adds movement. But again, when you go back and watch, I dare you to find someone that's frowning and not having fun. It's just another way to connect. Like, I know I'm not physically high-fiving anybody outside of my screen right here, but it feels like I am. I'm connecting with the other people on the other side of my, that's immediately to my left and immediately to my right. Here's another thing you can do is wheelofnames.com. This here, you can create a slide with icebreaker questions. So maybe it's that all about me one or something like that. But if you go to this website, wheelofnames.com, then you can input whatever names you want to, right? So, and then you spin the wheel to see who answers the next question. So what I'm gonna do, I just pulled out of there because I have Wheel of Names. I have been searching through my gallery view. Look, all of these people at some point in time have been on this Zoom meeting at some point in time today. And when you click on the name or on the center of the wheel here, it's going to randomly select one person, and it's Angie! We have a winner! What I love about wheelofnames.com is it throws confetti, it totally cheers, and now Angie would be the next person that would answer the question in my PowerPoint deck or the next question that I just asked people. So next I have a choice. I could either remove Angie because she's already answered a question, and that would mean somebody else would. I'm going to go, no, I'm not removing you from our group, Angie, but just from the questions since you've already been chosen here. And then it pulled her out. And now what I could do is I can click on this again, and then it's going to have another person answer the question, which is going to be Steve! Woohoo! Way to go, Steve! Or I could just close it out with Steve in there as well if I wanted. So what I love about that is, again, A, it's fun. Who doesn't love when people throw confetti and call out your name, right? But then B, it also ensures equity of voice, right? To where everybody gets a chance to answer questions, not just the same people answering the questions all the time. It encourages engagement. You could also, instead of putting in names, you could put really short questions in there as well if you wanted to. So that way then you could just pick on somebody, or pick somebody in your chat box, not pick on somebody, but pick somebody in your gallery view and just have them unmute themselves, then have them pick the next person. So that way then it's not you, the person that's running the meeting, feels like the bad guy by picking the people all the time and things like that. So so those are just a couple of other fun ways that you can make it feel a little bit more interactive. All right, another thing that you all got in your little gift box, or whatever, the little gift box that you got from your county, is it has a thumb ball in it. Okay, now thumb balls. Now normally this is an in-person event, right? Or an in-person activity, but with a little out-of-the-box thinking. You could do this virtually. We can also do this hybrid version, or with a, you can also do this while physically distancing as well, because we don't actually have to throw it and catch it with our hands. We can roll it with our feet, and we can touch it with our foot. So that way we're not passing germs onto an actual physical object. So now what a thumb ball is, it's a ball that has pre-printed questions written on it. So you throw it up in the air, you catch it, and you look under your thumb, and you answer the question that's under your thumb. So this one here on the screen here is kind of it's called a Who Are You, or an icebreaker thumb ball. So what's your favorite movie or TV show? Best book or author, a fun sport to watch. Let's see, you're a great vacation place, your birthday, your age, different things like that. So if you don't have one of these, you could totally make your own with a beach ball and a Sharpie. It'd be or any ball and a Sharpie. But what you do, first tell your group how the thumb ball works. Tell them you're going to throw that ball up in the air to yourself. You're going to catch it, look under your thumb, and then I'm going to pick somebody in my gallery view that is going to answer the question. They would unmute, They would answer the question, and then they would pick the next person. You would throw it to yourself, or I could pretend to throw the ball to Liz, and then she would pretend to catch it. And then Liz, then after she would answer, would pretend to throw the ball to somebody else, and they would pretend to catch it. And so again, we're adding a little movement, a little bit of fun, a little bit of whimsy, and things like that. Now, what you did get in your little kit is a numbers thumb ball, and it looks like this. So the numbers thumb ball it's got numbers 1 through 12 on it. So now you can make these questions be whatever you want them to be. So let's say you want to do icebreakers. Come up with 12 icebreaker questions. Write them up on a board if you're live and in person. For the people that are in person in your training, for those that are hybrid, you create a slide that has the same 12 questions. And now we're all answering the exact same questions at the same time. And then let's say maybe you knew the topics of what the 4-H presentations were by several of your 4-Hers so maybe you come up with questions halfway through that, what did you learn from Emily's presentation? What did you learn from Jack's presentation? And then, or ask them ahead of time, what should the 4-Hers have gotten out of your presentations? And then put some questions in there midway to see if people are staying engaged. And you can do that. You can make this be whatever you want it to be. Then at the very end, come up with debriefing questions. Maybe even the same ones that we did with the 4-H pledge debrief, right? And then if you've got everyone numbered off by numbers, then it's like, all right, person number 6, who happens to be Joseph. Joseph is going to answer, whatever the question is. So this has multiple programming possibilities for yourself. And so all 25 of the sites got one of those. And again, if you don't have one, they're so easy to make on your own. We carry them on the Training Wheels website, but you could totally make a prop like that on your own really, really easily. Okay. So another prop that you have in your in the kit that got sent to everybody is what I call the Stack the Deck cards. Okay, now what Stack the Deck cards are, they are a deck of playing cards. So you actually have playing cards right there at your fingertips, and they look something like that. They're giant size. Well, not giant size. They're like the size of your head, maybe, if you will, or your hand. And so I like things like this because now from across the room, people can see these, right? So so I could use A's through 6 if I were doing the playing card connection activity. But other things it has on it has 3 things. It's got an icebreaker question, a picture of some sort, if you will, and then this little black box that has a statement written in it. So the icebreaker question game is the next one that is one of my favorite ones to do, because let's say I'm not good at coming up with icebreaker questions for the thumb ball. Well, you have in your little kits now, you have 52 different icebreaker questions. Now this picture here is of icebreaker wheelies. Those are just icebreaker questions as well, but they're the same as what you would see on this deck of cards. So what I love about this, now if you're live and in person, just hand everybody 1 card and then tell them to go find a partner. You can still do this standing 6 feet away, and then ask each other the question that is on the card, or give everybody maybe 3 cards. So that way when they talk with one person, they can ask them their first question. Then tell them after you're finished with that first question, you've both answered each other's questions, then go find a new partner. But then take that top card, put it to the back. So that way now you've got a new question that you're going to answer with the new person that you're going to connect with. Now in the virtual space, you just come up with your list of questions. And what I love about this is that everybody has the opportunity to share and use their voice. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes when I lead meetings, I ask questions and sometimes you get this as a response. And it gets awkward, right? You're like, nobody's answering. What do we do next, right? So what I like about doing something like this where everybody gets to ask and answer the questions one-on-one, then what I love about that is that everybody gets the opportunity to share. It also warms them up to talking, because some people get really nervous talking in front of a group, right? And so this is an opportunity. Everybody gets to share, a chance to share. It's a great, easy way to meet new people. It also allows for conversations to kind of come to a natural end before you would then go find a new partner and ask them a new question. It's also, if you guys have any latecomers that ever slip into your programs, it's also really easy for latecomers to kind of slip in a little bit unnoticed, because you're all engaged in conversation. This is for the in-person version. If you're already engaged in conversation, you're not really paying attention to who's coming in late and things like that. So, and then you could just go hand the new person 4 little cards and just say, go find a partner. wear your mask and go ask them the question, and then go find a new partner. Just, you know, answer one question at a time. So that's also in your kit. I also like, you could customize these questions to be, so again, if you start out with an icebreaker, you can also do the same type of activity as a debrief. So maybe just use note cards and have everyone write down, or you could write down a bunch of debriefing questions or reflection questions that would come at the end, and then have everybody do the same thing at the end. So it's really a simple way, or you could print off questions onto cardstock or something like that and reuse the questions over and over again. Quarantine the cards for, you know, for at least 3-4 days afterwards, or laminate them so that you can disinfect them. There's all different kinds of ways that you can still be really creative even in this odd time in history, right? Okay. So here is another technique. Also on these cards, I mentioned and showed you that there were pictures on these cards, right? So this great debriefing technique that I love to do, you see in this photo here, there's all these different picture cards that are laid out. And this was taken, of course, pre-COVID because no one's wearing a mask. We're all close together. But what I like about these metaphoric cards is that they're abstract concepts, where I ask people basically to look at all the pictures that are down there and pick a card that would best describe an experience you had today during our club meeting. Then pair up with someone and share why you chose the card that you did. And what I love about this is that everybody gets their own personal choice on why they chose the picture or the metaphor that they did. It's a very participant-driven technique that, whereas you, the 4-H'er yourself, you have ownership. You know why. You had some good personal choice in that, on why you chose the card that you did. So so this particular one here, you can use the same deck over and over again with the same group of kids. I'm going to show you how to make these on your own. Let's see here. I'm going to pull out of this for a second because I missed a slide in here somehow. The slide that I really wanted to take you to is this one right here. So I'm going to put a link in the chat box to a doc that I created for you all. And it's actually a group that I did last week. I'm going to show you how you can do this in the virtual space, okay? So if everyone clicks on that link right there, it's going to take you to a Google Doc that I created that it says metaphor card / pictures. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again so that you can kind of see what I'm seeing as well as the host. So what I love about this is now I can tell I have probably 10 total viewers on this right now, which means in a meeting of 52 people, I know that this is how many people that I have actively engaged in this activity right now in this moment. So what you could do is you could use a link like that, put it in the chat box, and have everyone come to it. And then what I've done is, like breakout room number 1, what I want you to do is go to this website here, unsplash.com, and find a photo that best represents a learning you had in today's meeting or something like that. Now, Unsplash is a royalty-free website to where I could go there, and so I'll just go to unsplash.com. And when I go there, this is where, let's say if I typed in, have everyone think, what would be a good metaphor that would maybe represent something that you learned today? So let's say, or maybe if, I'm going to just type in 4-H just to see what happens. See if there's something in here what pops up with 4-H. So all these different things are popping up just with the keyword of 4-H. But let's say maybe if I wanted to type in something else, like what's something I learned? Maybe my head is spinning with ideas, right? Oops, I totally misspelled the word spinning. Spinning with ideas. So then if I type in head spin, then all of a sudden all these different images are popping up on headspin. So what I would do then is maybe I would scroll through here, maybe find one that might really match maybe an experience that I had. I'm not seeing any of those that really look like head spinning to me. Maybe I'll just do I'll just do spinning. Let's see what that comes up with. So now I'm like, oh, okay, head spinning. I'm like, oh my gosh, so many different ideas. There we go. My head is spinning back and forth, whatever. So what I could do is I could click on this image. I could copy this image and I could bring it back over here. And now I could place this image on this document here. So if I was in breakout room number 1, that I would, so let's say you had 27 kids on your, in your meeting that night. And so you wanted 3 to 4 kids in each room. Let's say maybe I got put into breakout room number 2. I could then come here, breakout room number 2, and then we would all put our images right here. And so then in small groups, I could then just share it with everybody why I chose the picture that I did. So this is an example. I did this last week with a group, and these are some of the examples of the photos that everybody found. And it was really cool then to go back and there's a good head spinning one, to hear why people chose the photos that they did. And there's so much good imagery here. So that website there, unsplash.com, it's royalty free. So you are welcome to use those images that you find there in presentations and things like that. But what I like about this from a sharing point of view is now I have this document that I can use afterwards with groups. And so then it becomes this cool thing. Now I see somebody went in and actually changed what happened on my main title slide there, which is fine, but I can just recognize that you have to change your sharing settings. So right now I have it made to where anyone with this link can actually edit this document. So you have to change it. So it could, if I didn't want anybody else to add anything to it, I could make it to where I just wanted everyone to view it, but not change anything on there. So so just know that Google's going to assume that when you make a document that they don't want anybody else, that you don't want anybody else to see it. So you have to make sure you change your sharing settings before you utilize this, okay? All right, Steve, how am I doing on time? How much time do I have left here? I have 0 minutes left. Ah, okay. All right, so I am over, which means let me do my final sharing with you. I am so glad that you invited me to be a part of your meeting today. I hope you have gotten some good ideas and that you are excited about going out and really getting creative with your clubs this for the next year. Like, who knows how long we're to be in this particular setting. So finding those ways to stay connected. I have this last little tool that you have in your kits called the Sci-Fi Tube or the UFO ball. And when a connection is made, really cool things can happen. And so figure out those ways to stay connected with your club, because anytime if we all stay connected to the mission, vision, and values of your club, really cool things are going to happen. And if you disconnect from it, it's going to have an effect on everybody else in the club. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of your day. And I look forward to hearing what great, amazing things you're going to accomplish this year together as a state. Steve, back to you.
Michelle, I'll actually take it from here. Again, we cannot thank you enough. Michelle, I've been using a lot of your materials from Training Wheels for well over a decade. And every time I hear you speak, I leave with more and more resources at my fingertips. So again, you inspire us today, as well as giving us lots of tools that we can begin to use immediately. And I can tell you that I've got a couple of Zoom meetings coming up this next week that I'll be using some of the things that you taught us today. Awesome. So again, Michelle, thank you so much.
You are welcome. Keep up the great work, everybody.